Hello everybody.
Cindy and Gary here from Pathways Homestead, and we are continuing our series on how to find your homestead.
Yep. Things you need to know.
Things you need to know on finding your homestead.
So I think the first thing we want to talk about today is zoning. There are many places.
Yes.
And I remember as a child looking at places when my mom and dad were looking for a new place that are zoned.
Yes.
That you can do certain things and you can't do certain things. A lot of times the zoning has to do with building codes.
Yes.
And whether or not you have to pay to have permits and inspection. A lot of homestead stuff doesn't work well with zoning.
Right.
So that you kind of need to be aware, at least be aware. And I'm going to tell you that one of probably the hardest, most infuriating things I see done in homesteading is people will buy a place knowing it has zoning,
Yes.
knowing it has restrictions, and then try to do those things anyways.
And then be upset because
Yeah.
they can't do it.
Guys, you know what it is when you buy it, and you need to know what it is when you buy it. You need to know those things. So most of your zoning will be found either from your township or your county.
Yes.
Your county courthouse is a good place to find all that out. There's somebody there that can help you find out all the zoning. You also might talk to your neighbors, just because sometimes there are counties that have some zoning that they don't really enforce out in the
Right.
county.
But you want to check that zoning out.
Yes.
Because it could be enforced.
Make sure it's something you can live with.
Yep.
Because once you buy property, you're in it.
Yep.
And it was there before you were. So it's kind of how it is. Another part of zoning, besides building, is also what you can own.
Yep.
I remember when I was a kid, there was some places that were for sale in our county that were nice places out in the country, way out in the country, and there was zoning there that you couldn't own a pig.
Right.
You can buy 35 acres in the middle of nowhere, but you can't own a
have a
pig
pig.
on it. And we had an ag teacher that bought that place and tried to start a pig farm, and that was kind of hard to do. So you need to check that kind of zoning out as far as what animals are allowed, and that will also, you will find that out through your county or your township. Your county courthouse will help you find that out. The other thing for zoning is what to do with wastewater.
Wastewater.
As far as flushing toilets and bathtubs and stuff like that. Also found out through your county. A lot of counties use the county health department
Yes.
as the agency for that. Our county uses the road and bridge, or at least it did when we bought this
Did
place.
when we brought the
And the road and bridge inspector, he also inspected the sewer lagoons. And so they gave us the pamphlets and the rules. And a lot of counties have pretty strict codes on that. Ours did not.
No.
And we also found out real quick that they weren't going to even enforce much of what they had. There was, you need to build it this way, but they weren't going to get real particular about it, just as long as it was basically a safe setup to contain the water.
You need to be prepared that if they do decide to enforce it, that you can meet the codes. You need to be prepared for that, because that can change by who is in office, who has taken over that department. That can all change, so you need to follow those guidelines.
And we definitely built our lagoon to specs. And we worked hard at making it that way.
Yep.
And so that's an important thing before you buy a place. You need to know the codes.
Yep.
You need to know what your county expects of you in a place and what they restrict you on doing. So those are important things to check out. Also, besides just codes, you need to look at your neighborhood,
Yes.
your environment.
Yes.
And you kind of need to have a plan on what you're going in and doing. If you're planning on starting an all organic market garden, big farm nurseries and stuff, that you want to be certified organic, and it's right next to 300-acre commercial corn farm, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't expect your neighbors to change because you bought a little piece of ground. So those are kind of things you look at. You look at what's around you. How is it going to interact with what you're planning on doing? If you're buying a place, if you buy a 3-acre place. It's a bunch of amongst quite a few McMansions.
Yeah.
Don't buy it thinking you're going to live in a camper and have hogs on it, because that isn't going to fly. So you need to kind of look at your environment as well as your zoning restrictions. Another thing, besides just your neighbors and your environment, look at what is the land suitable.
Yeah.
Is the land suitable for your plans? You know, if you buy a hillside, a gravel scree hillside, and you think you're gonna have a bunch of market gardens on it and build a big laid out horse farm,
It's gonna be tough.
it's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough.
So you need to look at your layout and make sure it's suitable for what you're planning on doing. And so a lot of this starts in the dreaming and planning stage. You know, we've talked about water already. You have to have water. Some way or other, you have to have water. The rain catchment thing is really chancy, I guess. There are people that have made it work. They've built huge rain catchment things. Systems, and it is quite the expense. So, but in that dreaming and planning, before you're even looking at water, you need to know what you're planning on doing.
Yeah.
If you want to just live in a pretty cabin and have a small garden and a few chickens and go fishing and hunting all the time, the requirements are different than if you're wanting to build
a mini farm,
a full organic vegetable farm, a market garden. That's completely different. If you're wanting to build a place to board horses, that's completely different needs than a commercial goat dairy.
Right.
But it's just different needs. So you need to be looking at that. You need to be looking at what your neighbors have going on and how that's going to affect you, because you are the one coming in.
Right.
And so you need to give them the respect of not coming in expecting them to change for you.
Right.
And you have to meet your county codes. That's important. And what you're going to do with wastewater is a part of that. You need to know whether you're going to have a lagoon or whether you're going to have a septic system.
What kind of
septic?
Yeah, the hoop. Yeah, what kind of septic system you're going to have.
An anaerobic hoop system is quite expensive.
Whether or not you can drill a well.
Yeah.
Whether or not you can drill a well on your own. It's whether or not you can, your housing codes, whether you can build your house or it has to be built by a contractor.
Some codes and zoning will prevent you from catching rainwater.
Yes.
So you need to know those things. So when you start looking in an area, the first thing you ought to do is go to the county and find out the zoning. Second thing you do when you look at specific places is look at your neighbors and the environment of that. See how that's going to affect you. Remember, you're starting this with kind of a plan. If you're planning on doing it all on a budget like we do, that's going to affect zoning.
Yes.
Affects that.
Yep.
What you're going to have to pay for permits, and if you're going to have to pay licensed contractors for everything,
right.
and all that. If you're going to have to pay licensed contractors to put in your septic system. I managed to borrow equipment and put in ours on our own. We did slide by a lot of the zoning projects because I already worked for a licensed contractor that did that. And so basically,
we just operated under their license.
Yeah, we never did officially do that, but the county inspector knew, hey, that's Seamers Construction.
And he trusted us.
Yeah.
He knew us and trusted us to do it right.
I worked with him many times.
Yeah, and we have the reputation of doing what we need to do. So, and that's the other thing is reputation. Your reputation will get you or lack thereof. If you're new to an area, that they may or may not trust you.
Yeah.
That it just depends on the area you come to.
And that's just part of dealing with everything.
Everything.
Whether people know you makes a big difference.
Yeah, makes a huge difference.
So I encourage you guys, as you're looking at your homestead, to start with your dreaming and your planning. Kind of have an idea of what you're intending to do.
And years out, there is no reason, and maybe this is a different video, but there's no reason that you can't be planning right now for 10 years, 20 years in the future.
And that doesn't have to be detailed.
No.
You just have to have kind of a general idea.
You have to have a dream. And you know what? That dream can change.
Yeah.
That dream can change, and that's the amazing thing. Every day you wake up and you get to make different choices, and you can make different dreams and create different dreams. That's probably a different video.
Yeah.
I probably need to have that cut that out and do a different video. But yes, you definitely need to know what you're wanting to do, and maybe even sketch it out a bit. At least have it written down on paper so you kind of have it to go off of, and research, especially if you've never done it before.
If your plan is to build a tiny home, you need to make sure you're buying a piece of property where the county zoning allows tiny homes.
And state zoning, yeah.
And state zoning allows tiny homes. If you're planning on using a lot of water catchment, you need to make sure your zoning allows that. If you're planning on doing all the building yourself,
Make
you need to
sure
make
it's
sure
allowed.
it's allowed in your zoning and your planning. If you're planning on having livestock, you need to make sure that's allowed.
And don't rebel and shortcut. I know it's a big popular thing to rebel. Don't do it. Don't cause that headache for yourself and for others. Please don't do that.
Watching a deal the other day where a lady bought a place knowing that the zoning was against building housing there, and she built the house anyways, and then was bemoaning how she was being mistreated by not being allowed to live in her house.
Yep.
Guys, that was there before she got there.
Yep.
And so you're asking for trouble if you don't check that out and don't plan on following it. I know every once in a while you find a place you think's a dream place, but hey, if it makes all your neighbors mad at you, it's not going to be a dream place.
Nope.
Dream places are good, safe communities where neighbors look out for each other,
Yes.
and neighbors care about each other. And if you come in trying to push around and push the boundaries of what your neighbors are doing and what they've already agreed to, that doesn't create good community.
And it's good to meet the neighbors in the neighborhood. That may not be welcome in some areas, just saying, but go to the local, even if it's a ways away, go to the local gas station, go to the local coffee shop, the mom and pop restaurant. Go hang out in those areas. Go to
If you're in cattle country and you see more than one feed truck parked somewhere, go there.
Yeah.
If you're in oil country and you see some pumpers trucks parked somewhere, go there.
Yeah, just
that's kind of what you need to be looking at.
spend some time. I mean, if shopping is a big deal for you, make sure that you aren't 45 miles from shopping. I mean, there's a lot in planning. There's a lot in what you're willing to live with and what you want out of life.
We see 45 minutes from shopping as a blessing.
Yes, we do. We do. We're not quite that far.
No.
But it's okay. It's okay. But guys, that'll end this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and check out your zonings. Make sure that is when you're looking for property, make sure that if you are using a realtor, the realtor should know your zoning. Make sure they know what you want, that the realtor knows what you want, and it's okay to double check in case the realtor misunderstood something or something's missing. It's okay. I don't know that we've ever used a realtor, so
we've tried. We've looked at some properties through realtors before.
So I think that's something that we kind of overlook is a realtor. They should know the laws. They should know the zoning for the areas you're looking if you're using one. But it's okay to double check and make sure, because the last thing you want to do is spend a gob of your money, your hard-earned money, on a piece of property that you can't use in the way you want it to. But if you do find yourself there, put it for sale. If you bought it, somebody else will buy it. So that's the option. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, and if you'll hit the bell button, that will notify you of all of our upcoming videos. So thanks for watching. May God richly bless you, and remember that He loves you very much.